Hello and welcome to another episode of Journey Through the Bible in 1 Year, supported by the Mount Hope Community Christian Reformed Church. And today is December 9. My name is Bob, and we're glad that you joined us in this daily reading of the Bible, which we post each weekday, Monday to Friday. And each reading is taken from the New Living Translation of the Bible. And today's readings are from Nehemiah 10, 11, 12, 13, and Revelation 8. And now let's begin today's reading. Nehemiah 10. The document was ratified and sealed with the following names: the governor, Nehemiah, son of Hakaliah, and also Zedekiah, the following priests: Sariah, Azariah, Jeremiah, Bashir, Amariah, Malchijah, Hattush, Shebaniah, Malach, Harim, Meremoth, Obadiah, Daniel, Jonathan, Baruch, Meshullam, Abijah, Mijamin, Messiah, Bilgai, and Shemaiah. And these were the priests. The following Levites: Joshua, son of Azariah, ben Nui, from the family of Henadad, Kadmiel, and their fellow Levites, Shebaniah, Hodiah, Kalita, Peliah, Hanam, Micah, Rehob, Hashabiah, Zakur, Jerebiah, Jebaniah, Hodiah, Bani, and Beninu. The following leaders: Parash, Pahath Moab, Elam, Zatu, Bani, Azgad, Bibai, Adonijah, Bigvai, Adin, Ater, Hezekiah, Hazar, Hodiah, Hashem, Bezai, Harif, Anathoth, Nebai, Magapayash, Meshullam, Hazir, Meshzabel, Zadok, Chadua, Peratiah, Hanam, Ananiah, Hoshea, Hananiah, Hashab, Elhash, Pilham, Shobek, Rahum, Hashbanam, Mazai, Ahiah, Hanan, Anan, Maluk, Harim, and Baanah. Then the rest of the people, the priests, Levites, gatekeepers, singers, temple servants, and all who had separated themselves from the pagan people of the land in order to obey the law of God, together with their wives, sons, daughters, and all who were old enough to understand, joined their leaders and bound themselves with an oath. They swore a curse on themselves if they failed to obey the law of God as issued by his servant Moses. They solemnly promised to carefully follow all the commands, regulations, and decrees of the Lord our God. We promise not to let our daughters marry the pagan people of the land, and not to let our sons marry their daughters. We also promise that if the people of the land should bring any merchandise or grain to be sold on the Sabbath or on any other holy day, we will refuse to buy it. Every seventh year, we will let our land rest, and we will cancel all debts owed to us. In addition, we promise to obey the command to pay the annual temple tax of 1/8 of an ounce of silver for the care of the temple of our God. This will provide for the bread of the presence, for the regular grain offerings and burnt offerings, for the offerings on the Sabbaths, the new moon celebrations, and the annual festivals, for the holy offerings, and for the sin offerings to make atonement for Israel. It will provide for everything necessary for the work of the temple of our God. We have cast sacred lots to determine when, at regular times each year, the families of the priests, Levites, and the common people should bring wood to God's temple to be burnt on the altar of the Lord our God, as it is written in the law. We promise to bring the first part of every harvest to the Lord's temple year after year, whether it be a crop from the soil or from our fruit trees. We agree to give God our oldest sons and the firstborn of all our herds and flocks, as prescribed in the law. We will present them to the priests who minister in the temple of our God. We will store the produce in the storerooms of the temple of our God. We will bring the best of our flour and other grain offerings, the best of our fruit, and the best of our own new wine and olive oil. And we promise to bring to the Levites 1/10 of everything our land produces. for it is the Levites who collect the tithes in all our rural towns. A priest, a descendant of Aaron, will be with the Levites as they receive these tithes, and a tenth of all that is collected as tithes will be delivered by the Levites to the temple of our God and placed in the storerooms. The people and the Levites must bring these offerings of grain, new wine, and olive oil to the storerooms and place them in the sacred containers near the ministering priests, the gatekeepers, and the singers. We promise together not to neglect the temple of our God. Nehemiah 11. The leaders of the people were living in Jerusalem, the holy city. A tenth of the people from the other towns of Judah and Benjamin were chosen by the sacred lots to live there too, while the rest stayed where they were. And the people commended every one who volunteered to resettle in Jerusalem. Here is a list of the names of the provincial officials who came to live in Jerusalem. Most of the people, priests, Levites, temple servants, and descendants of Solomon's servants, continued to live in their own homes in the various towns of Judah, but some of the people from Judah and Benjamin resettled in Jerusalem. From the tribe of Judah, Athaiah, son of Uzziah, son of Zechariah, son of Amariah, son of Jephthah, son of Mahalalel, of the family of Perez. Also Messiah, son of Baruch, son of Kolhoseh, son of Haziah, son of Adiah, son of Joarib, son of Zechariah, of the family of Shelah. There were 468 descendants of Perez who lived in Jerusalem, all outstanding men. From the tribe of Benjamin, Sallu, son of Meshullam, son of Joed, son of Pedaiah, son of Koliah, son of Masaliah, son of Athiel, son of Jeshiah. After him were Gabbai and Salai, and a total of 928 relatives. Their chief officer was Joel, son of Zechri, who was assisted by Judah, son of Hasenuah, second in command over the city. From the priests, Jediah, son of Joarib, Jachin, and Zariah, son of Hilkiah, son of Meshullam, son of Zadok, son of Meraioth, son of Ahitub, the supervisor of the temple of God. Also 822 of their associates who worked at the temple. Also Adiah, son of Jeroham, son of Pelaliah, son of Amzi, son of Zechariah, son of Pashur, son of Malchijah, along with 242 of his associates, who were heads of their families. Also Amashashai, son of Azarel, son of Azai, son of Meshelmoth, son of Immer, and 128 of his outstanding associates. Their chief officer was Zabiel, son of Hagedolim. From the Levites, Shemaiah, son of Hashab, son of Azrikam, son of Hashbabiah, son of Bani, also Jebbatai and Jozabad, who were in charge of the work outside the temple of God. Also Mattaniah, son of Micah, son of Zabdi, a descendant of Asaph, who led in thanksgiving and prayer. Also Bakbukai, who was son Mattaniah's assistant, and Abda, son of Shammua, son of Gilal, son of Jeduthun. In all, there were 284 Levites in the holy city. From the gatekeepers, Akub, Talmon, and 172 of their associates who guarded the gates. The other priests, Levites, and the rest of the Israelites lived wherever their family inheritance was located in any of the towns of Judah. The temple servants, however, whose leaders were Ziha and Gishpa, all lived on the hill of Ophel. The chief officer of the Levites in Jerusalem was Uzzi, son of Bani, son of Hashabiah, son of Mattaniah, son of Micah, a descendant of Asaph, whose family served as singers at God's temple. Their daily responsibilities were carried out according to the terms of a royal command. Pethahiah, son of Meshezabel, a descendant of Zerah, son of Judah, was the royal advisor in all matters of public administration. As for the surrounding villages with their open fields, some of the people of Judah lived in Kiriath Arba with its settlements, Dibon with its settlements, and Jekabzeel with its villages. They also lived in Jeshua, Moladah, Beth Pelet, Hazar Shual, Beersheba with its settlements, Ziklag, and Makano with its settlements. They also lived in En-Rimmon, Zorah, Jarmuth, Zanoah, and Adullam with their surrounding villages. They also lived in Lachish with its nearby fields, and Azekah with its surrounding villages. So the people of Judah were living all the way from Beersheba in the south to the valley of Hinnom. Some of the people of Benjamin lived at Geba, Michmash, Aijah, and Bethel with its settlements. They also lived in Anathoth, Nob, Ahaniah, Hazor, Ramah, Gittim, Hadid, Zeboim, Nebalat, Lod, Ono, and the valley of craftsmen. Some of the Levites who lived in Judah were sent to live with the tribes of Benjamin. Nehemiah 12. Here is the list of the priests and Levites who returned with Zerubbabel, son of Shealtiel, and Jeshua the high priest. Zariah, Jeremiah, Ezra, Amariah, Malluch, Hattush, Zechariah, Harim, Meremoth, Iddo, Ginnathon, Abijah, Miniamin, Medadiah, Bilgah, Shemaiah, Joiarib, Jediah, Zalu, Amok, Hekiah, and Jediah. These were the leaders of the priests and their associates in the days of Jeshua. The Levites who returned with them were Jeshua, Binnui, Kadmiel, Zerubbabel, Judah, and Mattaniah, who, with his associates, was in charge of the songs of thanksgiving. Their associates, Bakbukiah and Unni, stood opposite them during the service. Jeshua the high priest was the father of Joachim. Joachim was the father of Eliashib, and Eliashib was the father of Joiada. Joiada was the father of Johanan, and Johanan was the father of Jaddua. Now, when Joachim was high priest, the family leaders of the priests were as follows. Meriah was leader of the family of Sheriah. Hananiah was the leader of the family of Jeremiah. Meshullam was the leader of the family of Ezra. Jehohanan was the leader of the family of Amariah. And Jonathan was leader of the family of Malluch. Joseph was leader of the family of Zechariah. Adnah was the leader of the family of Harim. And Helkai was the leader of the family of Meremoth. Zechariah was the leader of the family of Iddo. And Meshullam was the leader of the family of Ginnathon. And Zichri was the leader of the family of Abijah. There was also leader of the family of Miniamin. Petaiah was leader of the family of Moadiah, and Shammua was the leader of the family of Bilgah, and Jehonathan was the leader of the family of Shemaiah. Mattaniah was leader of the family of Joiarib. Uzzi was the leader of the family of Jedediah. Kali was leader of the family of Salu. Eber was the leader of the family of Amok. Hashabiah was leader of the family of Hilkiah, and Nathaniel was leader of the family of Jediah. A record of the Levite families was kept during the years when Eliashib, Joiada, Johanan, and Jaddua served as high priests. Another record of the priests was kept during the reign of Darius the Persian. A record of the heads of the Levite families was kept in the book of history down to the days of Johanan, the grandson of Eliashib. These were the family leaders of the Levites: Hashabiah, Zerubbabel, Jeshua, Binnui, Kadmiel, and other associates, who stood opposite during the ceremonies of praise and thanksgiving, one section responding to the other as commanded by David, the man of God. This included Mattaniah, Bakbukiah, and Obadiah. Meshullam, Talmon, and Akkub were the gatekeepers in charge of the storerooms at the gates. These all served in the days of Joachim, son of Jeshua, son of Jehozadak, and in the days of Nehemiah the governor, and of Ezra the priest and scribes. For the dedication of the new wall of Jerusalem, the Levites throughout the land were asked to come to Jerusalem to assist in the ceremonies, and they were to take part in the joyous occasion with the songs of thanksgiving and with the music of cymbals, harps, and lyres. The singers were brought together from the region around Jerusalem and from the villages of the Netophathites. They also came from Beth Gilgal and the rural areas near Geba and Asmapheth, for the singers had built their own settlements around Jerusalem. The priests and Levites first purified themselves, then they purified the people, the gates, and the wall. I led the leaders of Judah to the top of the wall and organized 2 large choirs to give thanks. One of the choirs proceeded southward along the top of the wall to the dung gate. Hoshea and half the leaders of Judah followed them, along with Azariah, Ezra, Meshullam, Judah, Benjamin, Shemaiah, and Jeremiah. Then came some priests who played trumpets, including Zechariah, son of Jonathan, son of Shemaiah, and son of Mattaniah, son of Micaiah, son of Zakur, a descendant of Asaph. And Zechariah's colleagues were Shemaiah, Azarel, Milalai, Galalai, Mai, Nathaniel, Judah, and Hanani. They used the musical instruments prescribed by David, the man of God. Ezra the scribe led this procession. At the fountain gate they went straight up to the steps of the ascent of the city wall toward the city of David. They passed the house of David and then proceeded to the water gate on the east. The second choir, giving thanks, went northward around the other wall to meet them. I followed them, together with the other half of the people, along the top of the wall past the Tower of the Ovens to the broad wall, then past the Ephraim gate to the old city gate, past the fish gate and the Tower of Hananel, and on to the Tower of the 100. Then we continued on to the sheep gate and stopped at the guard gate. The 2 choirs that were giving thanks then proceeded to the temple of God, where they took their places, and so did I, together with a group of leaders who were with me. We went together with the trumpet-playing priests, Eliakim, Maashai, Miniamin, Micaiah, Elionai, Zechariah, and Hananiah, and the singers, Maaseiah, Shemaiah, Eleazar, Azi, Jehohanan, Malchijah, Elam, and Ezer. They played and sang loudly under the direction of Jezrahiah, the choir director. Many sacrifices were offered on that joyous day, for God had given the people cause for great joy. The women and children also participated in the celebration, and the joy of Jerusalem could be heard far away. On that day, men were appointed to be in charge of the storerooms for the offerings, the first part of the harvest, and the tithes. They were responsible to collect from the fields outside the towns the portion required by the law for the priests and Levites. For all the people of Judah took joy in the priests and Levites and their work. They performed the service of their God and the service of purification as commanded by David and his son Solomon, and so did the singers and the gatekeepers. The custom of having choir directors to lead the choirs in hymns of praise and thanksgiving to God began long ago in the days of David and Asaph. So now, in the days of Zerubbabel and of Nehemiah, all Israel brought a daily supply of food for the singers, the gatekeepers, and the Levites. The Levites, in turn, gave a portion of what they received to the priests, the descendants of Aaron. Nehemiah 13. On that same day, as the book of Moses was being read to the people, the passage was found that said, "No Ammonite or Moabite should ever be permitted to enter the assembly of God, for they had not provided the Israelites with food and water in the wilderness. Instead, they hired Balaam to curse them, though our God turned the curse into a blessing." When this passage of the law was read, all those of foreign descent were immediately excluded from the assembly. Before this had happened, Eliashib, the priest, who had been appointed a supervisor of the storerooms of the temple of our God, and who was also a relative of Tobiah, had converted a large storage room and placed it at Tobiah's disposal. The room had previously been used for storing the grain offerings, the frankincense, various articles for the temple, and the tithes of grain, new wine, and olive oil, which were prescribed for the Levites, the singers, and the gatekeepers, as well as the offerings for the priests. I was not in Jerusalem at that time, for I had returned to King Artaxerxes of Babylon in the 32nd year of his reign, though I later asked his permission to return. When I arrived back in Jerusalem, I learned about Eliashib's evil deed in providing Tobiah with a room in the courtyards of the temple of God. I became very upset and threw all of Tobiah's belongings out of the room. Then I demanded that the rooms be purified, and I brought back the articles for God's temple, the grain offerings, and the frankincense. I also discovered that the Levites had not been given their prescribed portions of food, so they and the singers who were to conduct the worship services had all returned to work their fields. I immediately confronted the leaders and demanded, "Why has the temple of God been neglected?" Then I called all the Levites back again and restored them to their proper duties. And once more, all the people of Judah began bringing their tithes of grain, new wine, and olive oil to the temple storerooms. I assigned supervisors for the storerooms, Shelemiah the priest, Zadok the scribe, and Pedaiah, one of the Levites. And I appointed Hanan, son of Zakur, and grandson of Mattaniah, as their assistant. These men had an excellent reputation, and it was their job to make honest distributions to their fellow Levites. Remember this good deed, O my God, and do not forget all that I have faithfully done for the temple of my God and its services. In those days I saw men of Judah treading out their winepresses on the Sabbath. They were also bringing in grain, loading it on donkeys, and bringing their wine, grapes, figs, and all sorts of produce to Jerusalem to sell on the Sabbath. So I rebuked them for selling their produce on that day. Some men from Tyre who lived in Jerusalem were bringing in fish and all kinds of merchandise. They were selling it on the Sabbath to the people of Judah, and in Jerusalem at that. So I confronted the nobles of Judah. "Why are you profaning the Sabbath in this evil way?" I asked, "Wasn't it just this sort of thing that your ancestors did that caused our God to bring all this trouble upon us and our city? Now you are bringing even more wrath upon Israel by permitting the Sabbath to be desecrated in this way." Then I commanded that the gates of Jerusalem should be shut as darkness fell every Friday evening, not to be opened until the Sabbath ended. I sent some of my own servants to guard the gates so that no merchandise could be brought in on the Sabbath day. The merchants and tradesmen with a variety of wares camped outside Jerusalem once or twice. But I spoke sharply to them and said, "What are you doing out here, camping around the wall? If you do this again, I will arrest you." And that was the last time they came on the Sabbath. Then I commanded the Levites to purify themselves and to guard the gates in order to preserve the holiness of the Sabbath. Remember this good deed also, O my God. Have compassion on me, according to your great and unfailing love. About the same time, I realized that some of the men of Judah had married women from Ashdod, Ammon, and Moab. Furthermore, half their children spoke the language of Ashdod or of some other people and could not speak the language of Judah at all. So I confronted them and called down curses on them. I beat some of them and pulled out their hair. I made them swear in the name of God that they would not let their children intermarry with the pagan people of the land. Wasn't this exactly what led King Solomon of Israel into sin? I demanded. There was no king from any nation who could compare to him, and God loved him and made him king over all Israel. But even he was led into sin by his foreign wives. How could you even think of committing this sinful deed and acting unfaithfully toward God by marrying foreign women? One of the sons of Joiada, son of Eliashib, the high priest, had married a daughter of Sanballat the Horonite, so I banished him from my presence. Remember them, O my God, for they have defiled the priesthood and the solemn vows of the priests and Levites. So I purged out everything foreign and assigned tasks to the priests and Levites, making certain that each knew his work. I also made sure that the supply of wood for the altar and the first portions of the harvest were brought at the proper times. Remember this in my favor, O my God. Revelation 8. When the Lamb broke the seventh seal on the scroll, there was silence throughout heaven for about half an hour. I saw the 7 angels who stand before God, and they were given 7 trumpets. Then another angel with a gold incense burner came and stood at the altar, and a great amount of incense was given to him to mix with the prayers of God's people as an offering on the gold altar before the throne. The smoke of the incense, mixed with the prayers of God's holy people, ascended up to God from the altar where the angel had poured them out. Then the angel filled the incense burner with fire from the altar and threw it down upon the earth, and thunder crashed, lightning flashed, and there was a terrible earthquake. And then the 7 angels with the 7 trumpets prepared to blow their mighty blasts. The first angel blew his trumpet, and hail and fire mixed with blood were thrown down on the earth. 1/3 of the earth was set on fire, 1/3 of the trees were burnt, and all the green grass was burnt. Then the second angel blew his trumpet, and a great mountain of fire was thrown into the sea. 1/3 of the water in the sea became blood, 1/3 of all things living in the sea died, and 1/3 of all the ships on the sea were destroyed. Then the third angel blew his trumpet, and a great star fell from the sky, burning like a torch. It fell on 1/3 of the rivers and on the springs of water. The name of the star was Bitterness. It made 1/3 of the water bitter, and many people died from drinking the bitter water. And then the fourth angel blew his trumpet, and 1/3 of the sun was struck, and 1/3 of the moon, and 1/3 of the stars, and they became dark. And 1/3 of the day was dark, and also 1/3 of the night. Then I looked, and I heard a single eagle crying loudly as it flew through the air, "Terror, terror, terror to all who belong to this world, because of what will happen when the last 3 angels blow their trumpets." And that is the end of today's reading. And Lord, will you bless today's reading and hearing of your word? And will you bless us as we reflect upon the story of the Bible? Amen.